Descendants 1 starts with Mel as the narrator, and her first word was a big spoiler to how the film would go.
This is my hood. No magic, no Wi-Fi, no way out. Or so I thought.
Mel, in her happy state, concludes her story as the narrator.
You didn't think this was the end of the story.
And this last line explained that there was more to expect from the villain kids. Descendants 1 may have ended well for all of the characters who chose good, but the second movie showed Mal struggling with her new position, as her first line says,
Well, that's a lot easier said than done, right?
Mal managed to cope with her stress by using the spellbook to adjust to her new life. However, Mal's last line in Descendants 2 reveals that she pulled through from that.
I'm not going to be needing it anymore.
As the story progresses, Descendants 3 opens with Mal as the narrator again. However, Mal's first line says,
Who wants to go? You?
As they had a limited number of 4 to stick to, despite Descendants 3 ending happily, the villain kids were still not united with their parents, as Mal's last line was to say,
Because we're rotten. to the core.
Evie's first line was short, but explained everything about her character.
Princesses. Perfect princess. Ugh.
Her joy is evident knowing that there would be princes who live in castles at Auradon, and her focus was getting married to one. But Evie developed much better without the validation of a prince, and her last line sees her defending Mal with her mirror, saying,
Mirror shining bright light!
Even though Mal is overwhelmed at the beginning of Descendants 2, Evie's first word suggests her main concern is keeping Mal pretty in her colourful gowns.
If we don't do a fitting for your gown right this minute, you'll be dancing in your bathrobe, okay? Hi, let's go.
Evie's last line explains how she won't stop watching for the other kids left at Auradon.
But there's a lot of kids who would really love it here in Auradon. Kids just like us who also deserve a second chance.
And Evie's first line in Descendants 3 shows that she's more than happy to make others' dreams of going to Auradon come true.
I can't believe this day has finally arrived!
Interestingly, her last line was to ask,
Do you ever miss him?
It's entirely different for Carlos when he hears that they would start schooling in Auradon, as his first sentence exposes the lies his mum had been feeding him.
Mom said they're rabid pack animals who eat boys who don't behave.
Yeah, Mom, we're not.
However, he had this to say in his last line in Descendants 1.
Just to be clear, we don't have to be worried about how really mad our parents will be. Because they're gonna be really, really mad.
Carlos was still concerned about what their parents would think, and it took the assurance that their parents couldn't reach them before he could join the Goodness Club with his friends. Carlos also sounded proud in his first word in Descendants 3, as he picked one of the villain kids for a new life at Auradon.
Next is son of Smee. Come on, Squeaky.
And Carlos's last word was a challenge to them all.
Hey, last one over the bridge?
The race down the bridge could be to see their parents, since it had been a while. Jay's first line might appear meaningless.
Yeah, and I don't do uniforms, unless it's leather, you feel me?
But it shows that Jay meant what he said. He later went to the school and showed significant progress, especially in the tourney game. The last scene shows that Jay got his wish of wearing pure leather, and his last line in Descendants 1 says,
Well, let's get this party started. Oh,
So it all shows Jay only enjoys mostly the fun part of schooling in Auradon, while still expanding to accommodate love. In Descendants 3, seeing how one of the twins left the other was almost heartbreaking, but this was solved with Jay's first line.
And no way we're splitting up the twins, so get over here, Squirmy, come on!
Even though Jay has gotten used to life at Auradon, his last line after meeting another villain kid who shares his interests suggests that he doesn't mind taking a break to enjoy some past adventures.
What do you say you and me go exploring? I'll do a gap year. Jungles or icebergs? Both?
However, Ben's first line in Descendants 1 shows how big his heart is, as he didn't just want the progress of Auradon, but the Isle as well.
I've chosen my first official proclamation. I've decided that the children on the Isle of the Lost be given a chance to live here in Auradon.
Ben's last line reveals how he's always ready to defend Mal against evil, even though there's barely little he can do.
Next time I rescue you, okay?
Ben has been used to the media and all the attention, and he expected Mal to fit right in as he tries to help and show how it's done with his first line in Descendants 2.
We will let you know if and when that particular situation changes.
And Ben's last line also shows that he won't give up on helping other villain kids.
Yes, absolutely. Please.
Uma's first line in Descendants 2 shows how frustrated she is that only Mal and the 3 others are enjoying a good life at Auradon.
That little traitor.
Who left us in the dirt?
Interestingly, her last line stayed nearly the same.
You didn't think this was the end of the story, did you?
Even though Uma tried her best to get into Mal's position, she couldn't get through, and her last line explained more troubles should be expected from her. The first scene with Uma in Descendants 3 shows the evil water villain is back, as her first line says,
That's my name.
which shows more of the rivalry between Uma and Mal. Surprisingly, Uma became a much sweeter person later on, as she finally got her wish to come true for the other villain kids. But her last line shows that she still remembers who she is.
What's my name?
Uma.
King Ben's parents, Belle and the Beast, are 2 interesting characters who allow Ben to dominate instead of influencing his decisions as a young king. Their first lines show concern but understanding for Ben's new role in Descendants 1, which says,
How is it possible that you're going to be crowned king next month? You're just a baby.
He's turning 16, dear.
and there's nothing much to their last line except being shaken up after the crowning of Ben was almost ruined. The villains, especially Maleficent, have significantly influenced everyone on the Isle, and her daughter, as her first line shows her mischievousness. And despite how her daughter adjusted to love, Maleficent kept to her evil side till the end, which isn't surprising, as her last line in Descendants 1 before shrinking to the size of the love in her heart says it all.
You all will regret me.
However, the other villains aren't as fierce and desperate as Maleficent, as their first lines are more goofy than evil. Evie's mum, the evil queen, in her first word, challenged Maleficent's lies about making their evil plan for Auradon her only idea.
Evie, my little evilette in training. You just find yourself a prince with a big castle and a mother-in-law wing.
And lots of mirrors.
No laughing.
However, the evil queen's last word didn't happen until Jane mistakenly opened up a space in the barrier, and Evie's mum said,
The barrier is broken. We're free.
Carlos's mum, Cruella de Vil, didn't care about taking down Auradon as long as her son stayed with her.
Well, they're not taking my Carlos because I'd miss him too much.
Really, Mom?
Yes. Who would touch up my roots, fluff my fur, and scrape the bunions off my feet?
Jay's dad, Jafar, wouldn't know how to keep his store together without Jay, as he protested in his first line.
Well, Jay isn't going either. I need him to stock the shelves in my store.
Jay's dad and Carlos's mum's last lines in Descendants 1 show them going on at each other after Carlos was firm with his mother about his love for dogs, and Jafar tried to chip in. Chad could be the son of Cinderella and King Charming, but his impression in Descendants 1 was close to being mean. However, his first line still suggests that he would play and work with the villain kids who just joined the tourney game.
I'll work with him, Coach.
All right.
And towards the end of the show, Chad continued to be annoying, as his last line was hurtful and demeaning.
You're nothing but a gold digger and a cheater.
In Descendants 2, Chad's first line shows how he's willing to stand by a rulebook, just so a girl wouldn't be part of the tourney game. Interestingly, by the time Descendants 2 was close to the end, Chad was already under the control of Audrey, as his last line says,
I'm coming, Audrey!
Throughout Descendants 1, the fairy godmother is consistently reasonable and supportive, but her first lines are more corrective and strict.
Leave it like you found it. And by that I mean just leave it.
Funnily enough, the fairy godmother kept to this energy as she gave her last line to scold her daughter Jane. Thank you for watching today's video and subscribe for more Descendants 4 updates.